The funeral.
That's right.
That night, Linda got a phone call. Uh-oh. Linda's one of her parents. Let's see what we have here already. Mark the 21st of this month on your calendars. For one day only, watch the world-famous Fighter 5 as they scream across the sky. Witness death-defying feats of flying in a display unlike anything you've seen, guaranteed to blow you away. Don't miss it. I always wanted to say depth-defying. I had to pause and make sure I said death.
Anne, I just got off the phone with Mom. She told me about Grandma Joe.
Oh, Grandma.
I know we expected it sooner rather than later, but this is hitting me so much harder than when Granddad died last year. Do you remember going to Grandma Joe's house after school on Wednesdays and playing until Mom got off work? How Grandma Joe always had a surprise for us? Even if it was just cookies in the oven, she'd always time it so the whole house would smell like them when we got there. I hope the minister captures those little moments because they don't seem as little now. I wish the circumstances were different, but it will still be good to see you at the funeral. What am I saying? You probably won't even get this until after the funeral. I guess I just needed to write anyway. Love, Linda.
So I'm wondering if Linda's resolution for this chapter might have something to do with the funeral. Dan, big news. Got a call from Bracket Books in Eugene. They want you to do a reading from Windsong. Maybe even some Q&A, some book signings, all that good stuff. I think you should do it. In fact, I'm going to be pretty pissed if you don't. Bracket is a big outlet, so if this goes well, orders for the new book will definitely go up. I don't need to remind you how long it's been since Trammer's Way came out. If you don't keep your name out there, no one will ever notice when you finish a new book, whatever it's called. Hell, speaking of the new one, why don't you read some of it too? Maybe the second chapter you sent me last month. That one was pretty good. Bracket Books, Eugene, the 21st. Oh, that was the air show. The 21st, sorry. See you there, Paul. P.S. You know the long game, right? Nailing this could be a bigger advance on the next book. So the 21st. So that was the air show. I'm guessing Tommy will want to go to the air show. Can't do that. That's from earlier. Yes, I'm guessing Tommy would want to go. Oh, there's a picture. Have to be the 21st. Yeah. So I'm guessing Tommy would want to go to the air show, even though... What in the world is going on there? Maybe from the air show. Somebody in a suit from the air show. Maybe. Not sure. There's Linda. What'd she say? She knew I loved her. Anything in here? There's always a book right there.
I walked out to the bluff to remember Grandma Joe and say goodbye. And on the way back, I started thinking about what it really means to have a family, to make that your focus. She seemed to take such joy in being surrounded by her family, providing for them, taking care of them. I hope I never took that for granted. When I got back to the house, a question hit me that I can't get out of my head. What will Tommy think about Dan and me when he gets older? And what if Tommy has kids of his own? I can't even begin to think of myself as a grandmother. I haven't even been a mother for that long, and I'm still feeling my way through what it means to be a good one. At least I'll always have an example. I miss you, Grandma Joe, and I'll never forget you. I promise.
Very emotional chapter this one's turning out to be. Where did they go? Okay, he's there. Let's go see what Tommy's doing. Sounds like Tommy's playing. Yes. Up in heaven. Grandma Joe, I guess. Oh, there he is. There, him and Dad. stuck on Tommy. I couldn't get around him. Let's see.
Is she in heaven?
I'm sure she is, honey.
Anything in Tommy's room while I'm up here? It doesn't look like it. Let's head over to the study. Nothing that we... Oh, can we get on that book? No. Here's the notebook.
Oh no. Joe's funeral's the same day as the signing in Eugene.
Oh,
and Paul says they can't move it.
Everything's the same.
He'll understand if I bail because he knows Linda, but Grovefield is a different story. They won't give a damn why I missed it. They'll just get a memo and put it in a spreadsheet somewhere and write me off just a little bit more. And it's not just the timing. If I do the reading, I've got to get that chapter in shape. It's not even remotely ready for anyone to see it. Can't worry about what Paul says. He's my agent. He's supposed to stroke me. And what about Tommy?
Blast off!
Thinking this one... Oh, there's an airplane. Tommy's really want to kind of go to that. Somebody just come in here? No. Here's a letter.
Most of you here knew my grandmother. For those who didn't, I truly wish you had. She was an example for all of us. Her warmth, her caring, and her smile were impossible to forget. It's still hard for me to believe she's gone. Without her, the world is...
Yes, I can already see. Usually I try not to look ahead, but this one's pretty easy to see where this one's going to go, I think. So, and this is, for me, is a pretty easy choice. Let's see what...
Did it. Got it to Paul on Monday and just about dropped on the spot. Barely slept Sunday night, but damn it, I got it in. Abject terror is a pretty strong motivator. Linda understood, I guess. She had her own deadline, so at least she could identify, but in the end it was still a choice, and she didn't let me off the hook. Can't blame her, really. Sometimes you just have to make tough calls. That's why they're called tough calls.
Tough calls. Yeah, this one, I don't think this one will be a tough call. Sounds like... Oops. Oh, here he is. Oh, you're both on.
Lynn, I'm so sorry. Tell me what I can do.
Just be here for me.
Her studio, yeah, she's painting now. Sounds like there she is.
Just got back from the show, if you can even call it that. I didn't sell a single piece, which isn't a surprise given the turnout. I know Dan had other things on his mind, but I told him how important it was to me. It was such a good opportunity to figure out what I want to do when we get back home, too. But I can't make up my mind based on such a half-hearted exhibit. Was that Dan's way of telling me he's not ready for me to go back? I don't want to read too much into it, at least not so soon, but it's really hard not to.
I guess from where Dan did not... Well, we had Dan not write the press for her show to help her out. Okay, is that everything for her? I don't remember. I guess it was. I didn't think it was everything for her. Ooh. Need to call about tickets to coming to the funeral. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Let's get everybody. There's Dan. What's his? Do some work on this chapter about Tommy. The magazine says it's going to be a ton of planes. Okay, let's check this real quick. Dan, do some serious work on the first chapter. Linda he needs to call to buy a ticket if he's coming to the funeral, and Tommy was the magazine. Okay. So, like I said, I definitely, for this type of thing, I want to go with Linda for this chapter. Oh, there's a note over there that we missed. Let's see what this says. Call Paul first thing tomorrow morning. Any possible way to move it? Is this thing announced yet? Yeah, this is for Linda's outcome. Yes, this is a easy one to pick, I think, for me. Unless you want to be sadistic or something. Find out some more about the house. Oop, there's something glowing over here. Oh, but everything's in here. Alright, let's check this out. The Diary of K. Williams, May 8th, 1952. J. Who's J? J is gone and I am alone. That is the sum of it. No other thoughts enter my mind. Wed 38 years, now alone. A senseless accident has taken J from me. What I should do with myself, I do not know. Money is no worry. Time, that is the thing. There is so much of it still ahead of me. I've been blessed with health, but this blessing is now a curse. It is nothing more than a curse of time alone, without J. I attempt to look ahead, but I cannot envision a path without J. For so long, I had no need to imagine one. The children do not understand why I have to come to this house alone, as they cannot understand my loss. Getting more peculiar. That was May 8th. This is May 12th, the Diary of K. Williams, May 12th, 1952. I cannot say that I feel better than I did upon arriving, for J is still gone, but I do feel it. But I do feel a change. Some glimmer of a path is taking form in my mind. I cannot describe it other than a narrowing of thought. Perhaps time alone is to be thanked. Or perhaps it is something else, something unknown. A presence in the house. Today I drove to the McClendons to buy coffee, wine, and vegetables, although I was not due to run short for those for a few more days. A few more days. I confess I went to hear human voices, to be around the living. I conversed with a pleasant couple, and it did me no small measure of good. My first words came out as a croak, and then I realized I had not spoken in days. A small reminder of my solitary days here, alone with my thoughts, thinking of J, staring at the sea just over the cliff. Though I must confess that my gaze always drifts from the sea to the edge of the cliff. Ooh, uh-oh. Why should you Dan couldn't bear the thought of Linda going to the funeral alone, so he bought a ticket and flew to Denver with her. The funeral was hard for Linda, but having Dan there made it easier to bear. They stayed up late the night of the funeral, as Linda told Dan stories about Grandma Joe, and they talked about maybe being grandparents themselves one day. When Dan told Tommy they wouldn't be able to go to the show, Tommy had a crying fit and tried to tear up the magazine. It worried his parents. He hadn't thrown a fit like this for almost a year. It was exactly the kind of thing they'd hoped to avoid by spending the summer in such a quiet, peaceful place. Paul was livid when Dan called and said he couldn't make it to the reading. Dan was used to his agent laying into him, though. What really worried him was that he hadn't gotten a chance to work on the chapter Paul had asked him to read. That gnawed at him. He knew he couldn't afford to keep putting this book second if he wanted it to be his best. As July came to the end, the Kaplans' lives had developed a pattern. Dan finished his first draft, but instead of accomplished, he felt disappointment. The book had gotten away from him. It was barely readable, much less publishable. Paul and Grovefield gave him one last chance to get it into shape. They didn't have to tell him what the consequences would be if he couldn't get it together. On the following Tuesday morning, Tommy put on an art show in the den, explaining his drawings to his parents one by one. Dan was polite and paid attention, but he wanted to be somewhere else. He smiled at the right times, but he didn't engage Tommy or praise his work. Tommy could tell his father was bored, so he cut the show short. He didn't draw for a week. Dan and Linda had made reservations for the weekend at a bed and breakfast, but they had both privately wanted to cancel it. As had become their pattern, neither one of them spoke up, so they went on anyway. It was as miserable as they both feared. Without anyone else around to distract them, they couldn't hide from their apathy that had consumed their marriage. And the whole reason to come up there in the first place. They still had a month left, but Dan's chances to change the course of the summer were growing fewer.